Welcome to the Boks Office. We are out here in London and we're doing a collaboration with the love of rugby. The most capped England scrum half of all time, Ben Youngs. World Cup winning captain John Smit out here in London. Jean de Villiers Schalk at home in South Africa on holiday once again while I'm working pretty hard out here. Ben, before we get into it, tell us about your podcast, For the Love of Rugby.
Yeah, so it's myself and Dan Cole.
Yeah.
We tell our stories, give reviews, previews and all that. Have a lot of fun doing it, a bit like yourselves. But mate, we try and be positive and all that. And actually, we've got a good South African following. We've had Andre on a few times. You can check it out on YouTube. Listen on audio form, of course. We come out weekly, and it's a very enjoyable format.
Love it, bud. You've had a tough week. You've copped a bit of banter or a bit of abuse. Let me say, how's it been?
Yeah, I mean, the Aussies have been pretty kind to me, to be fair. I've made some nice Australian friends this week. So on the podcast,
what did you say? Let's just go back a week ago.
So let's take it back.
You said a lot.
I think it was "Don't waste my time."
Don't waste my time. So basically, Andre came on the show, and we were doing like a preview of the autumn, chatting away, and he put me on the spot. He said, "Oh, what games will England win?" And which I said, "I think England will beat New Zealand."
Yeah.
I said, "Australia, don't waste my time." At this point, they'd taken 60 against Argentina.
Yeah.
And
lost to the Springboks twice. Lost to New Zealand.
Exactly. And I said, South Africa, I think England will lose. And I said, then we'll win Japan. I said, so 3 out of 4 I went for. But I was so wrong. So I've taken some stick, but I love it. It's all good. It's all good. Like the Aussies, mate, my memory of playing the Aussies is they sledge. It's all good fun. Like, you know, England, Australia is a great rivalry, whether you look at in any sport, cricket, rugby, whatever it is. Like, it's all good fun. So, yeah, but I was humble pie for me this week.
We did the Coco Show. We did a collaboration with them also, but they're waiting for you.
Yeah, they are. So they are. I'm gonna catch up with those boys actually. So I think Drew's gonna get into me a little bit, but I'll catch up with those boys and I'll have to cop it a little bit, but it is what it is.
So the Lions must go to Australia then, not South Africa.
I also said that, right? So I did as well. That's worth mentioning.
Are you taking that back?
I'm taking... I don't know. Maybe I'll just leave that one out there just in case and see what happens in the summer. But no, I mentioned that as well because, you know, when you think of the Lions and how special that is, like an incredible, prestigious thing, right? And for some people, it's like for South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, you probably only get... Rarely do you get 2 chances of playing against the Lions. Very rarely do you. Often it's one shot at doing it. And to be a Lion is everything for us guys. So the fact they went to South Africa in the circumstances it was, and at that point, you know, the hype and everyone was so excited. And of course, the pandemic. I just looked at it and I just sort of thought, why couldn't you go back there? You know, like you know, why couldn't you redo that tour? Equally, because for so many of those guys in the Boks squad, like that would. You know, ultimately, they didn't get the full Lions experience either.
We were there. It was sad. We sat in the stadium, empty stadium, watching this amazing series. It was sad.
It's not right, is it? Nah. You know, so that's why I'm thinking that. But look, they'll go to Australia, and you know, Joe Schmidt's doing a good job. I'm not saying they'll win.
Do you think the Wallabies can do the Grand Slam?
No.
Are you sure about that?
Wales, I think they'll beat Wales. They seem to be really struggling.
Yeah, I'm asking for your predictions.
I think Scotland will beat them. So I think they'll go home with 2 wins, 2 losses. I think in all. But the main thing is, right, we need Australia to be good. Like World Rugby needs Australia to be good. Let's not. You know, it's all tongue in cheek, but let's not beat around the bush. We need Australia to have a really strong rugby union team. Like the benefit of that is huge for the global game. Of course, they've got the Lions hosting, but also the World Cup is around the corner. So everyone benefits from a really strong Australian team. So actually, I'm happy to eat some humble pie. I can cop it. And the benefit is like it's actually good. It's good for the game, and I truly mean that.
Yeah, we watched the game. We played the Old Course, St Andrews, and we watched it at what's it? Is it the Jigger Inn?
The Jigger.
So had a couple of drinks. They're full of South Africans, obviously looking forward to the game the next day. Everyone was cheering for Australia.
No, that does not surprise me. That does not surprise.
Everyone was cheering for Australia. I was shocked. Like it's literally you'd think the Springboks were playing there, but it was a good victory. Good game. Joseph Suali'li. Let's just talk about him quickly. Did you know a lot about him before?
I knew he'd played league, but I didn't know actually his history as a youngster was as a union boy.
Yeah,
and then he moved to league afterwards. But man, coming on your first professional game of rugby and getting man of the match and playing like that is it's a good sign for them.
Yeah,
if they could grab 1 or 2 big boys for their pack as well, that'll help. but they've got so much, I think, talent that flows into that league and into Aussie rules. And I think that's one of their biggest issues, is the other games are probably more popular and more appealing back in Aussie, which is putting some pressure on Union. But if they could do one or two more of those, but I'm guessing those kinds of snatch and grabs come at a cost as well. So it all depends on how much they've got to spend on bringing some of those boys across back to Union.
Who's making more money this trip, you or Brian or Havana?
I'm here for the love of the game.
Talking about centres, Rico Ioane put that in the book. New Zealand, did you see that coming?
I didn't. I thought Ireland would beat New Zealand.
Yeah.
I thought England had an opportunity to beat New Zealand in the summer and also at the home game, because New Zealand made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes. When I think of New Zealand, and you guys, you know as well, like given the amount of time the Springboks play, of course New Zealand is, they are ruthless, turnovers, anything like that, and they're so clinical. They made 21 turnovers against England, which is so unlike them. And England were in the game, but then a week later they go to Ireland, and to be honest with you, I didn't think I don't
think it was a great game.
It didn't live up to the hype.
Terrible game.
It didn't live up to the hype, did it?
I did put a few ZARs on a New Zealand win, which came through nicely.
What were the odds?
I think they were quite heavily stacked towards Ireland.
Yeah.
But it's never big with New Zealand, because I think the bookies realise they are a team that can beat anyone all the time. But that's just the scenario of them. New coach Scotty Robinson, and I think they would have realised this tour is important for him to be able to build some space, some breathing space. And when they do play, they can go and when they're in a corner and people think that they're going to tell them they're going to lose, which Ireland has been pretty good at telling opposition they're going to beat them. That sort of motivated them as well. So, and also, for him to put a comment like that, put that in your book. There's a bit of tension as well. I'm not sure that's
put it after the game.
Yeah, but that's I don't know if that's not really the All Black way. Yeah, but it just shows the tension that's built around these two teams over the last couple of years.
They've built a bit of rivalry, haven't they?
Yeah.
Just back to Joseph Suali'li, I think it's important for Australia, actually. They've got like a Cheslin, like Boks Office players that people draws a crowd. Anton Dupont, of course, of France. Yeah. Like them having him, I think, kind of opens up the door for, Australia rugby has to play sort of fourth, fifth fiddle behind so many other sports, that someone like that actually is going to draw some attention to the game. Exactly right. But my gosh, he lived up to expectation, didn't he? He was sensational.
Yeah, and you look at it. Okay, the Irish team now is that? Do you think it's the end of a cycle with that team? The golden generation. I think it was sort of deemed the World Cup was meant to be their World Cup. We could say the same thing about France. Yeah. Do you think it's the end of a cycle then with this Irish team?
I think they've been building around this team of players, this era of players, for a long time. But the reason why I say I'm not so convinced it's the end of a cycle. Cycles always dependent on players getting older.
This was their first home loss since 2021.
Yeah. I tell you, more the bigger reason for me, or the bigger concern, is they've got a great system. They've got 140 professional players. That's it. They've got 4 franchises. They've got an incredible system. They don't overcook the overseas players. There's only one international in each position across the 4 teams. There's a lot of stuff that they do well that allows for that churn of really good players. So if anyone's not quite going to cut it, they worked out of the system of 140 quite easily. I think what they've been very good at is being able to be competitive at set piece over the last couple of years, and that's a big part of that is Tag Furlong.
Yeah,
and it was heavily evident. I think they missed him probably the most out of everyone on the weekend against New Zealand. And Tag.
What Tag?
So I think that's probably one area where they're going to have to they need someone else to come into that position of tight end. But they got a good system, and I think they'll be competitive for. They're not going to go away. Ireland are going to continue to want to challenge for that number 1 spot, and I think it'll be important to see where they go. And I was actually having this discussion, and you must tell me if you disagree with me, but I think England actually might be challenging for a Six Nations as well as Ireland and France. I mean, it'll be a tight Six Nations this next one that comes up.
It's going to be very competitive. Yeah. And also the Scots,
Scotland were good. They were good against South Africa. Yeah.
Wales are struggling, but you still, in the Principality, one-off game, they can get up for it, and you're not quite right, they can do you. So Six Nations can be incredibly competitive. I think what you saw all weekend with Ireland is they were inaccurate, which you don't associate with an Irish team.
Lacked intensity also.
Yeah, 3 lineouts lost.
Yeah.
They coughed
which
up the
unusual.
ball a lot. It's so unusual.
Yeah.
Exactly. They tend to hold on to the ball so long and eke penalties out of you, but they weren't doing that. I thought the breakdown was ferocious though. It was chaos.
Yeah, but
chaos.
Ireland are good at destroying the breakdown and making it impossible for the opposition to get going.
Yeah.
They're very good at that.
Tommy, England, last 10, 15 minutes seem to throw... Are they self-destructing every single game? They seem to be butchering it in the last 10 minutes.
It seems to be an
New
obstacle.
Zealand away.
Yeah,
You think
no,
about every
exactly
single-
right. And even, Ireland, you look at Ireland that we did win in the Six Nations, won it with a drop goal right at the end. Up to that point, you know, with 30 seconds left on the clock, we were losing that test match. We got a bend on the right-hand edge, we got advantage eventually, Marcus kicks it over. So we were very close to losing that one as well. And then we got pipped by France and then the cycle sort of continued. The thing when I'm watching it at the moment is, the back end of games, we're dropping off our intensity. And it seems to be we're inviting pressure because we stop playing. So we seem to be sitting on a lead.
7-1 split, we do it.
Yeah. We ain't got the power you guys possess, right? We don't have that power. And so I'm looking at it in the last 10 minutes, often I feel like we are inviting pressure by the way that we're sitting on this lead.
Yeah.
And you just can't do that at test level. We saw it against New Zealand, 8-point lead, and we're just kicking everything. We're trying to, you've got to go through the phase, eke a penalty, try and see it out a different way than just kind of, kicking and giving them the ball and hoping that they can't come up with the goods. Same at the weekend, the score changed 3 times within the last 4 minutes. It's crazy.
Shimmie, the difference is, and I've had one or two irate English supporters ask me the same question. That's traumatic. The reality is, go back the last 2 Saturdays, the last 2 weekends for England, and you get that last drop goal, and you stop the last try, and you're looking down the barrel of an unbelievably successful November, and so the margins are so small. I mean, everyone's going to be panicking now, but that's the last thing they should be doing. They've actually been super competitive against 2 decent teams, and they had the ability to win those 2 games, and now it's chaos. That's the thing that starts to build in your mind, and then now you start getting to the last 10 minutes, and you start thinking, "Holy smoke, it can't happen again," and you invariably invite it into your subconscious.
It becomes a burden, doesn't it? You think, "Oh my gosh, we're in the same situation. Let's not have," and then it unravels, and you can't have that mentality.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see as well. I think we're seeing a contrast. So against New Zealand, we didn't play too much rugby. We kicked the ball a lot. Australia went huge multi-phase, but actually there was a time in that game to go, hang on a minute, bring Australia into the power contest. No Skelton, no Karevi, ultimately bring them into that power game. And we didn't do that. And then you ultimately, I feel like times are a little bit naive in terms of what we're doing. So this weekend, for instance, it's we can't go to the power game against the Boks because we're not going to win that.
Yeah.
But equally, we can't go to the loose unstructured game because we're not going to win that. So I'm intrigued to know what the tactics are going to be.
What's the Steve Borthwick way? You guys, Barney, you played with him, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've also played with him or been coached by him.
Yeah.
England, very conservative kicking game. Try to change, I think, after try to evolve the squad. But what is the happy medium there? I still struggle to see what's the identity of this English team.
Well, yeah, exactly. That kind of marries up with the point, 2 weeks we've seen contrast in terms of style.
Yeah.
And this weekend I'm a little bit unsure. Steve's very data driven, so he'll have a good understanding of like done by numbers and data and things like that. That's how he sort of coaches. And I guess he's kind of wants to be more what are the risks and then how do I nullify them against the opposition, where you take an Eddie Jones, for instance, or a Michael Checker that I've got at Leicester. That mentality is, this is what we do and you got to stop us. And that South African mentality kind of strikes me as that as well. And I could be wrong. But from the outside and playing against the Boks, it's like, this is how we play. We're going to empty the bench. You deal with it. You stop it, this is how we do and we impose ourselves. Well, I think the English mentality at the moment is a little bit like, we kind of adapt to the opposition. And I don't think that's necessarily the right way to go. I think that if I was in that camp, I want to be a bit more like, this is how we do, this is how we play our game, and we go out and do that.
I think you're spot on, but the reason why that happens, and it's a generalization around coaching staffs throughout, is that you actually become more, you tend to adapt if you haven't decided what your team's really good at. So if you're not the power struggle, smash and grab kind of upfront, and you're not extravagant and play the ball wide or multi-phase, then you do sort of end up focusing on adapting to what the opposition does by default. I don't think by design, to be fair.
Yeah, but the thing is, Marcus Smith, I mean, I think you mentioned it also after that too conservative, too much focus on defense. He's an instinctive attacking player. Now, you're going to tell a guy like that to start kicking, don't play rugby in your half, based on data. There'll be frustration amongst the players.
Yeah, it's interesting because you take almost Marcus out of the game at the weekend.
Yeah.
He was involved like in 3 tries, quick line out, 2 grubber kicks. Like you almost take him out. You almost think, where do England's points come from?
Yeah.
And then back to that power game. England traditionally have always had a strong pack, but you look at it now and you've got Bennell, great carrier, Tom Curry, Chandler, but they're almost like wide channel players. They're not like through the guts. Do you know what I mean?
So for a 9, when the lights go out, you just play a big ball carrier. And
exactly
nice
right.
tight,
And then you get speed of ball, you get momentum, and it brings in everyone else. I don't think we've got that ability to do that just yet.
Yeah.
And therefore it becomes a contrast of like we almost want to play the power game with a little bit of kicking and sort of squeeze team, but it almost doesn't complement that style. So therefore you've got to give a little bit more freedom to guys like Marcus and play a little bit, but then they need speed of ball, carry, dent, and all that. So it's a real difficult sort of situation at the moment.
What Ben is saying is that without forwards, the game would not exist.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, now we
always give me a big pack. Being a 9, I want the biggest pack. I need weight. Mass moves mass.
Borthwick, the defense is horrific. I mean, conceding 42 points at home. Felix Jones out the mix. Aled Walters, who 2 guys that worked with the Springboks and were very successful out there. What's the story behind? I mean, Eddie Jones, the same thing. A lot of changes with the backroom. You were there with England.
Yes.
What's the whole story behind that, though?
Yeah, not ideal. That Felix Jones obviously was attack coach South Africa, did work wonders. England were so sort of privileged to sort of get his services. Came in, done a great job, sort of reinvented the blitz defence as such. Yeah. It was working very effectively for England, but decided that the environment wasn't for him. He's left, unfortunately.
But sorry to interrupt. What do you mean the environment? What would be?
I don't know.
We asked, we heard the same thing. But what does that mean the environment?
Yeah, I honestly don't know because I'm not in that anymore.
Yeah.
But either way, what we've done, we've lost a fantastic coach. In fact, one of the best coaches in the world. And Eddie was similar, right? So you had coaches come in that were fantastic between 16 and 19, brilliant assistant coaches. Yeah. Those assistant coaches got picked up for new roles, they left. Yeah. And then trying to replace those coaches with the same caliber of those guys is nearly impossible.
Yeah.
And that's almost like Felix Jones, you can't replace him. He's that good a coach. Aled Walters, you can't replace him. He's that key to an environment. Test rugby's so intense the whole week. He's a great soundable, brings energy, all those other things that you just can't put a price on, right? So you lose those 2 guys. Can you replace them to the same level? In my opinion, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. And ultimately, you're seeing that now with the blitz. We're doing it. Someone's inherited that system, doesn't know it inside out to the level of someone like Felix because he's so well drilled on it. Yeah. And then at the weekend, you fall off 35 tackles. And then you're in this sort of like, do we stick with it? And it's not really my system, or do we change a little bit and kind of be a little bit more pragmatic with the defence? It's a real tough one, isn't it?
Yeah,
but Shimmie, 35.
Aled Walters would have got you to lose weight.
Aled Walters, what great! He's a great guy.
You'd have been skinny under him, John.
I was always trying to gain weight. It's like I tell the story. My last couple of months at Saracens, and my wife's now seeing me, like she's thinking, "What is this big boy going to do after rugby?" Because So she's like, what are you going to do? You're going to run? I said, no, I think I'm going to cycle. She's like, so I'll start some why. I said, well, you don't want to let yourself go. So I said, what do you think is like a maximum weight? What's my leeway? So she says, no, about 125 kilos. So I said, well, that's problematic because I'm actually playing for Saracens at 127 kilos. So we had to push that out to 130.
And then talking about previous coaches, working under Eddie, Danny Kaye is obviously, we've heard what he said in the book about Eddie being, I think, a dictator and a bully. You were there under his, he coached you a lot of your career there.
He did, yeah.
Well, how was that environment?
Do you know what? And this is the thing with Eddie, right? He divides opinion. If I went to a room and said, to a load of England fans, who liked Eddie Jones? Half the room would put their hands up and go, yeah, I really liked him. Half would. And even though they've never been coached by him, just on a snapshot of seeing him interact and all that. From my point of view, and I mentioned it on my podcast, is Eddie's the best tactical coach I've ever had.
Yeah.
And he drove a very high performance environment. And at times, you were told right between the eyes whether he thinks you're doing what you need to be doing or not.
Yeah.
And for me, that worked. I liked being told straight,
And knowing where you
Benny,
stand.
I need this from you. You didn't deliver on that. Because you can go and do something about it. I've had other coaches that tiptoe around that. And then you're kind of in the grey area of like, did I do what you want me to do or did he not? Now, I don't know Razzie. I'm only having a snapshot. And I'm not saying he's Eddie by any stretch of imagination and comparing them. But I imagine when he needs a tough conversation, I imagine he has it, right?
Yeah.
And he says it. Now, is that creating a bad environment or is that creating a high performance because winning is ultimately the ultimate goal?
Yeah.
And how you interpret that feedback is ultimately your choice. So from my perspective and my view, he's the best tactical coach I've had. The environment was a high performance environment. Was it comfortable?
It can be tough at times, yeah.
Was it comfortable all the time? Absolutely not. But should it be? I don't think it should.
We had Eddie. We had Eddie in 2007 for a couple of months.
Of course, yeah.
You won't find one of our squad members that would have anything to say negatively about Eddie. He was, again, a different role. He was a assistant coach. He was there to sort of
Jake White, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But he was phenomenal for us. You're right. Tactically, just brilliant. Said the right things, added the right turns. I mean, and you talk about that between the eyes. I think it was the first week he was there, and we were doing this shadow run. We were just going up and down the field, just playing plays, and I was. This was pretty slick, pretty smooth session, 20 odd minutes, and so we got in the circle, and I said to Eddie, saying, "What do you think, mate? Like out of 10, what do you reckon?" He said, "Oh, mate, I reckon it's about a 4." Yeah. and it just sort of, we all realized, okay, well, this guy's actually here. He wants a different level, a different standard, But I think it was a different role. It was easy to sap Eddie dry. The guys were hungry for the information and for the feedback and that, but it wasn't his job to tell you that you weren't kicking properly or I wasn't throwing straight. His job was just to add a little bit of pieces here and there, and we were hungry for information. So he was fantastic for us.
Yeah, tactically amazing.
Yeah.
Like you say, like he could watch a game. I've never seen a coach do it to his level. Watch a game and almost within 10 minutes of finishing, going, right, there's the 3 areas that you can go after this team.
But Ben, you're right. I think he's also he's the kind of coach that wouldn't appeal to a player who's slightly less self-confident, who needs their tires pumped all the time. When he's going to pay you a compliment, you literally have had the perfect game and scored 20 points. So he's that's sort of, so when you've got someone who needs a bit of hand on the shoulder and a little bit of pumping them up a bit, I don't suppose he's the best guy for that. But I think that's probably why he'd probably just to move those guys out of there.
He was an expert of cut, bleed, plaster. That's how we sort of refer to it. It's like he'd sort of say something, cut you a bit, and you'd be like, and then like let you bleed out, let you sort of think about it a little bit, and then by the end of the week, he's like plastering you up. And he's like, mate, you're moving so well, you're looking great. And you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, I wasn't 2 days ago, but like that's how he did it, Like, and
what are the methods?
Like he challenged you, and he made you see the game differently. And actually, like I say, it all came back to winning. And that's all you want to do as a player, right? That's all you want to do. And I dare say that between 16 and 19, that England team was very successful. But I think he's probably the only person that was capable of getting that success. We fell short, of course, we did in 2019.
Yeah.
But between that period of the 4-year cycle, we had a lot of success. And so much of it was because of what he brought and did.
But he had strange ways of getting the best out of players. Didn't he have a samurai sword or something like that at training?
That was before the New Zealand game in the semi-final.
What did he do there?
Oh, so we were. He'd gone out in Tokyo and brought this sword, and he was like, we had this team meeting. He's at the front, and there was a little table with a kiwi on it, and we're obviously thinking, New Zealand and everything like that. And next minute, he's gone around the back. He's come out with this. It's come off the case, mate. He's swinging this sword around. He's chopping this kiwi up, and he's going off on one. But he had different ways of doing things. He was always prepared to do things like differently, team meetings and all that. And mate, if he got it wrong, he was prepared to be like, yeah, that was probably shite. But but he always wanted different ways of trying to tap into what he wanted to do.
I guarantee for any really good coach is that there's a degree of craziness that exists in all of them.
Yeah, but go back 2019 World Cup. He was very vocal in the media about New Zealand, the pressure they were under. A week later in the final, nothing said about South Africa. Was that a tactic or what? Because I found it quite strange. I thought Eddie's going to be all over the Springboks in the chat in the media, but we heard nothing from him in the week before the Springbok game. Whereas New Zealand, it was all the pressures coming, this and that. What happened? What was the plan there?
Eddie was sort of the master of kind of taking the heat away from yourself, like the players, so that we could just focus on what we need to do. So Eddie was, you know, it would never surprise us that he's gone and said something and it's
Yeah.
like ran all week and it's like, but for us point of view, it's like brilliant. We can just focus on preparing, getting ready to play a test match.
Yeah.
Eddie's like dealing with all like a sideshow because he wants that to, very Jose Mourinho like, you know,
Yeah.
like we'll go and do something, say something
Pit of the Villas.
and just blow it up so that like, yeah, brilliant. They're all talking about that and we can just focus on that. And that week was very much, you know, I remember when New Zealand played Ireland in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So that's when we knew our draw that we'd be playing them. And he just sort of said, look, boys, the only people that can believe that we can win this weekend is in this room. You don't need anyone else. You don't need any distraction. Trust me, you're the only ones. We played them in 2018 in the autumn, and we'd ran them pretty close. Sam Underhill scored sort of in and out try, but it came back for an offside on a charge down. So there was an internal belief that we felt like we did have a game plan to beat them, which was all you need is the internal stuff, right? And Eddie sort of sold this sort of plan to us and this dream of like, New Zealand have got this burden of expectation. They've got all the pressure, boys.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Imagine playing for your country, being the greatest rugby team of all time, being all this, and they've got to defend their title again. They're going for 3 World Cup. And he just sort of like went, oh, you'll know exactly. And he goes off on this like narrative and this spin. And then you're suddenly sitting there going like, yeah, no, he's right. You know, we just need to focus on ourselves. Like they can deal with all that. And just again, just like, smart way of doing it. And you know, some coaches do, you know, like seen Czech do it at Australia, of course. Razzy's done it at South Africa. Like there's ways sometimes where they kind of manage the theme of the week by just what they do and the team can focus on what they need to do. So yeah, it's just how we sort of went. But it's the South African week, of course, no, we didn't. But that was just, you know, we'd played South Africa, we'd gone on tour in 2018.
Yeah, that was
Razzy's
first.
Razzy's
Yeah,
first.
that he'd just taken over.
And you know, we got well beaten. You know,
Yeah.
the first test we sort of raced into a lead in Johannesburg, and then ultimately South Africa did us. Went from Bloemfontein, we were well beaten on that day. In Cape Town, it was sort of torrential rain, and we managed to sort of grind out a win with a much changed South African team. And I think ultimately the South African always had the better of us in results. You know, we always struggled so much against South Africa. And I think one of the things with that is that sort of pack or that sort of team, so often we sort of got front foot ball, or often would get the better of maybe other packs. And therefore, when we played against Africa, they would actually beat us up front. And we weren't used to that, you know, like it was sort of, we weren't used to playing sort of on the back foot and dealing with that. And like, that's why I look at guys like Will Genia, for instance. I think he's one of the greatest nines, because quite often he played an Australian team that was on the back foot, you know, and he could still work his absolute magic, was still like amazing player. And I thought like, for me, I look at him, I think he's one of the greats because of the fact that he had to do that as a 9 on the back foot, where, you know, as an Englishman, you know, with that often, we weren't necessarily used to that. So when we played the Boks, we got a bit unstuck because it's like, well, hang on a minute, this doesn't normally happen. You know, it's a bit strange.
John, 2007, I mean, you told me something interesting. You were the smallest forward in the pack.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
That is crazy. Sitting next to me, like that is...
You were the light,
Yeah.
no, you lightest.
I was the shortest. No, I wouldn't say.
shortest.
I
No,
wouldn't
you
say.
can't be the lightest.
I reckon Schalk would have been lighter than me, but Donnie would have been heavier than me.
You're the shortest.
I was the shortest in the pack,
Yeah.
and there was probably only 1 or 2 guys.
Os, CJ, no, it was
Os was 6'3", CJ 6'3". Both of them a couple of pies heavier.
2 meters.
Yeah,
The guys behind you.
yeah. I mean, it's my greatest claim to fame, being the smallest, most agile guy in the pack.
Agile. 2007, the celebrations. We have to discuss this character. We're gonna the Leicester legend himself, Jean de Villiers.
JDV.
Let's talk about his experience at Leicester. Actually.
What do you want to know?
His legacy. Just talk about his legacy.
Let's talk about his legacy. Is there a picture of him in the change room there?
Yeah, I'm so sad he's not here today, so I'll give you a little insight into John's legacy at Leicester. So he turned up for 9 months.
Yeah.
He was there on a 9-month deal because we got him after he'd been away or whatever, and he came back. He came in, and he basically partied like Dennis Rodman in Leicester for the whole entire time. I reckon he had more nights out in Leicester in those 9 months than Rodman did in the whole of time he was with the Chicago Bulls. He played 52 minutes. That was his legacy. He played 52 minutes against Quins. Broke his jaw. Didn't stop him from boozing. Just used a straw instead. Yeah. He was basically an animal. He put anyone that was like, walked through the room, this absolute rugby icon and legend. So any youngster was like, oh my God, I'm going to learn so much from him. You basically learn how to scull a pint. That was basically what you learned off him, and how much you could intoxicate your body with alcohol. But an absolute champion of a bloke. He was honestly legend. So what a gent. I was to say, sad he's not here today.
John, you heard what happened? Let's talk about that World Cup celebration.
John's gonna love this pod.
I heard it 10 years later.
Yeah. It actually did keep. It kept
very quiet. You've heard the story, right?
No, I don't. I'm intrigued.
Listen to this.
When you hear party, JDV, I'm
So
right straight away.
in this respect, he was the one that probably hadn't had less to drink than I had. But we were invited to this beautiful wine farm for a celebration of the World Cup in 2007, and the Chenin Blanc was flowing the whole day. And it came to a time when we all had to get in the bus and head back to the hotel because it was the last day of the sort of bus tour, and we were going to end up heading into Parliament, into Cape Town. And so I'd taken a roadie, a bottle of wine, for the bus trip, which is about 45 minutes back to the hotel. And I was sort of second last row in the bus, and diagonally opposite in the third row to the right, Jean was sitting with his girlfriend, wife now, but his girlfriend then, and there was some admin going on there. There was a little bit of argy-bargy, and I thought that to cool things down, that I would take a sip of my Chenin Blanc and spray it through my two front teeth onto them just to calm things down. It's almost the same effect as when you tell your wife to relax. It has the opposite effect. And so the first time, Jean don't do that. And he gets back into this argument with the missus, and so obviously I do it again. The second time he's like, rage in the eyes comes out, Bonnie, don't do that. And then the third time, as I sort of sprayed over, he jumped up, and I think it was a great distraction from the fight that he was having, because he could actually physically sort this fight out. And as he stood up, I stood up, and I was laughing, and he absolutely banged me right here, hit me over the seat into the back of the bus. And I sort of sat there laughing, and everyone was sort of like, I suppose, drunk enough to laugh at the same thing. But I didn't remember a thing. I woke up in the morning, couldn't talk very well. And I'm thinking, I must have fallen or something. We're getting on the bus, and there's one person missing, JDV. There's no JDV. And I'm like, where's this? Like, someone, and everyone's saying, does this like not remember? And eventually Victor comes over and says, hey dude, the X no chat because he smashed you last night. So I phoned him. He was like, oh, I'm so sorry, Bonnie. I said, relax, bro. Just get to Parliament. So yeah, he's if people always ask what's the hardest punch you ever took in rugby, it was actually from Jean de Villiers, who's the most peaceful oak in the world.
The story. I know both of you. For 10 years, I
didn't have him down as a fighter with my experience at Leicester.
Well, he certainly isn't. But I think I'm probably the only guy who's ever punched him.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
He tells South Africa, because Leicester won the league, the Premier League that year.
Yes.
And he says because he was there. That's what he tells everyone. The year they won the league is because he was there. He was the motivation.
Yeah, the JDV effect.
He's all right.
No, but tell me now, you look at obviously Leicester, a lot of South Africans. Jasper Visser's done well.
Yes.
Who's the toughest South African you've played against?
Toughest I've played against?
Yeah. Well, at scrum off, it's difficult.
It's difficult, yeah, because you don't really match. You know, you see it at scrum time, but oh my gosh, I couldn't pinpoint one because there's been that many.
Yeah.
But Marco van Tranen was obviously at Leicester for a little while, and God, that guy.
Marco van Staden.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was at Leicester for a while before he went back to the Bulls.
Yeah.
Like he is a tough old boy. Oh my
he doesn't
gosh.
say much.
He doesn't say much. He doesn't need to. So at one point I was defending off a scrum, and I'd have Jasper and him coming off the bat, and I'd be like, yeah boys, so I'll just over chase, invite them back inside. Next minute the ball's been splattered and we got it back. But yeah, so him, Jasper, obviously been at Leicester, Andre's there. But playing against, you can't look, to be fair, Eben, the guy's a monster.
Yeah.
Dwayne Vermeulen, what a number 8, incredible.
Yeah.
And he's involved with
played in England.
He's involved with the coaching stuff now, right?
Yeah. Every week he comes out with these cauliflowers bleeding because he gets stuck into the live line-out driving sessions. So I says, mate, surely that's not. He says, I love it. I just love being inside of those.
Surely if you're training against that, you're like, no, thank God he's almost retired in a nice way, because I ain't got to deal with that again in training. And then he's still getting involved. You're like, oh please, I don't want to do it. Yeah. But he was phenomenal in 2019 World Cup final. But every time I played against him, You know, eights can influence the game. Like eights can the best eights influence the game, like your Kieran Reeds and all that. But Dwayne does, you know, turnovers, carries, and all that. Even the high ball catches, you know, just things that maybe aren't necessarily you look over. But like he'd catch every high ball in the backfield. He's just an absolute beast.
I would say comfortably best 8 South Africa's had.
Yeah,
comfortably.
I'm trying to think.
Tashman was a good call.
Yeah.
Probably more classic 8, whereas Dwayne is probably a bit more physical.
Yeah.
But those two would be up in the running. But I think Dwayne probably 2 World Cups will do that.
They're all different. I mean, you look at what Bob could do with the ball in hand also.
Yeah.
Bob, for me, was the best impact player we've ever had.
He would have been
in terms of changing a game from loose forward. Talking about, the physicality. Scotland were tough this last week. They fronted up.
Mate, their line speed, the ferocity on the tackles, the hits, the defence, they got that right, and that certainly rattled South Africa in the beginning. And then what they started doing more of, which I thought would have helped them if they had done it, was absolutely destroying the breakdown, like harassing the breakdown, especially when the bomb squad came up. They put more emphasis on the breakdown and creating a horrible ball for the 9 to play. So it was, you know, I think it was sort of Jaden's least best performance of the year, because I think for the first time he was just getting a ball a little bit slower. It was messy at the back there, so the Scots were up for it physically. Honestly, that scoreline doesn't reflect the true nature of that contest.
They had a couple of chances. I mean, 3 or 4 times. There was a stage where I thought if they score now, then it's game on.
Try before half time.
Try before half time.
With the knock on, unfortunately.
I think Hugh Jones had a couple of breaks on the outside where the pass went into touch and Duan was in space.
He had an amazing game, but he threw 3 absolute bombs over the top, which were 2-on-1s, you know. Yeah. So there was a lot of opportunity that they created. And I think, so I was fortunate enough to be in a room where Finn Russell came in and had a chat. And
you were doing another corporate gig.
I was with friends.
Flying back with a suitcase full of.
I was with friends. Just calm down. You're just so jealous. Just relax. And he came in, and you could see he was frustrated because, and he said, like, you can't spend that much time on the 22 of South Africa and not get a reward. And that's probably was the undoing of Scotland and the survival of South Africa was that. I mean, they were rock solid. They just wouldn't let anything get through. But Scotland had massive time and opportunity on that 5-meter line where they should have put either a 5 or a 3 pointer on the board, and that didn't happen. And then he says that was just the most frustrating thing, and that got them really, I guess, broke the confidence of what possibly could have been a game they could have won. I thought they had something in them.
Do you know what's fascinating is when Mpimpi went to the sin bin, they had a midfield scrum 5 meters out, dead in front of the sticks, right, and they decided to take the 3. Now they would have an overlap because of Finn Russell's distribution. But the power and the mystique of the scrum, and rightly so, is like, it's 1910, maybe like something around that time. Like, you're going to have to score a try, and that's probably your best chance. But they still opted not to take the scrum and take the 3. But doesn't that just show you the psychological barrier that you face with the scrum? Because you take the scrum, you could get hosed. Every chance as a pen for South Africa, you've got to get the ball in and out quick. But you've actually got an overlap either side, left or right, and with Finn's distribution. But that for me was a really telling point. I was like, because South Africa, Scotland play bold, don't they? They do. Yeah. They move the ball and they're ambitious. And I thought, wow, you're 5 out. You've got to score a try at some point against the Boks to try and create a little bit of pressure on them. But they opted for that, and I thought, wow, doesn't that just show you the fear of the scrum? And rightly so. But it just shows you, like what a weapon that is for South Africa, that they can nullify a team and they were actually like that.
They were hanging in while Ferguson was on. They were hanging in.
And the scrums.
They were. I reckon Channel 1 ball there. It was
just an interesting one.
Get the ball in and out. They played him deep though. They played Ferguson deep. Yeah. Like that shows that
they did, and then it went pear-shaped.
I just thought it was quite an interesting decision. Yeah. Like I just looked at it. I thought
that's a good.
But it just shows you're like, oh, can't even risk taking that. I'll rather take the 3. And you think you ain't gonna get many chances to score, boys. Yeah. Like you're gonna have to roll the dice, and that's probably the time. But just shows you like the psychological barrier that is.
Who impressed you from the Scottish team? Both of you guys. I thought Jones was good.
Hugh Jones was amazing. Okay, the 3 bombs he threw, that's unfortunate, but the boy can line break for free.
Yeah.
Yes, like he was carving up, and his angles were incredible. He was really good.
Lions next year for Jones?
I think he's definitely going to be next. Yeah. He got some paid, didn't he, between the disconnect between 13 and wing. Now my worry is obviously England will look at that and think, but there's the chance that Jesse Creel, I think, has been incredible all year.
Yeah.
Like, he could be in that 13 slot. Am was also obviously fantastic, but I don't know. I just think that, like, he got a bit of pay there, but I don't think England will get the same pay maybe this weekend.
Yeah.
But Hugh Jones was very impressive. I tell you who else was a big game changing moment was when Dewey went through on the inside ball, and Eben, what a tackle! Because that's a pre-planned move, that's a structured play.
Yeah.
Dewey goes through there. They've got support either side just to pick off the fullback, and mate, that moment's a match. Yeah, Dewey. Sorry,
that's the British version of
Duan. But I think his nickname's Dewey. That's why. Sorry, yeah. I think that's what his nickname is. Sorry, I know it is Duan, but his nickname's Dewey. So apparently. Dewey or Merv the Swerve. Apparently it's called Merv the Swerve. Merv the Swerve's another one.
Dewey van der McMillan.
Yeah. But I tell you, who else was good? Rory. The open side flanker, Dodge. Dodge. He's good.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of him, but he can play.
Yeah, he was very effective around the breakdown, as John alluded to. Like, you know, they made South Africa work for that, made it quite messy. Because I thought actually Grant Williams, when he came on, added some serious zip and tempo. Yeah. I think he's a real lively player, isn't he?
Yeah.
I tell you, the other guy I love watching is Finn Russell.
Yeah,
I do like the way he plays.
What do you like about him? Give me.
He flipping tackles.
Give us some insight.
Like everyone sees him as this attacking maverick, and he does try a little bit more than most flavs. If you put him behind a massive pack, I'd love to see just what he could do. But what I love about him is that he's quite fancy with ball in hand, but flip, he loves to hit. He doesn't shy away from that vacuum, and he puts his shoulder in and he gets stuck in. It was quite interesting listening to him talk. He was in his boots still, and he comes across as a guy that's sort of fair weather and just playing the game, but he loves playing for Scotland, and he hates losing.
Quality player. Yeah. He's done well with Bath, hasn't he?
Yeah, massive.
Done great jobs.
Very
I
good,
think someone like him his actual game management is massively overlooked.
Yeah.
Because you associate him with like the absolute highlight reels, right? Yeah. But everyone forgets he's so effective at getting out of his half, decision making, execution of kick, managing that sort of territory battle. Like, he's phenomenal at. And I look at him and Marcus Smith, where they've got a sort of very similar sort of ball in hand. But where Finn edges Marcus for me right now as a test player is he's also fantastic at managing the game. Yeah. And Australia, England at the weekend, there was times where your 10 has to kind of control that game and bring it back to the power game for England. And that's where Russell, I think, sometimes doesn't always get the plaudits he deserves. He's amazing front football and all that, but he's also very, very good at managing the game.
Yeah. From a Springbok point of view, I think Stephen Jones now complaining about the bomb squad changes within the laws. The whole, I mean, what's the England thought around the 7-1 split, 6-2 split, what the South Africans do? Because now it's become a topical thing once again.
Who's that? Who's the guy? I don't know why he keeps getting an audience, but there's someone that continues to bleat around the 7-1.
The Australian guy.
What's his name?
Scotland?
Yeah.
Williams.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talk around it.
It's within the laws.
You should be allowed to do what you want.
It is. I mean,
you could do what you can go 8-0 if you want.
People, I mean, it's a mess. I mean, I don't know if I'd do that as a coach. It's a massive risk. Like, you put 7 blokes on with 35 minutes to go, and you start getting some injuries in the back line, things can go pretty pear-shaped pretty quick. So there is risk and reward. It is within the rules. And other teams, even at a club level, are experimenting with the bench and the numbers of how many forwards. It's something different, and I guess people are scared of the change, but to bleat about it, don't bleat about it. Figure out something how to combat it. Make another plan. Become innovative around what that innovation of changing your balance on the bench has become. But man, to whine about it, it's just just beat it.
I agree. Razi's been pioneering the way that he's seen the match day 23 and the way that he's set that up.
Yeah.
And you should be allowed to put 8 forwards on the bench if you wish. It shouldn't matter. You're allowed to do whatever you want. I just think that the way that they do it, like no one possesses that level of depth. Yeah, and that's for other oppositions to figure out how to combat that. Exactly. That's their strengths. That's what it's coming. Yeah. You still got to stop it. And I don't think it shouldn't be a problem. It'd be allowed to put whoever you want. Like Quagga Smith, for instance, could easily play in the back. If it happened, you could move him out. He's a great athlete, amazing athlete. He could do that. Yeah. Jasper, if you needed to. I'm pretty sure he could play in the centre. It's like
Jasper.
Yeah, well, you could put him at 12 for a few carries. You know what I mean? But they should be allowed to do what they want. And I just think they have sort of been pioneering the way that they've done it.
You do what works for you.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing.
And
If that's your strength, you've got enough guys to put on them and do it. Whatever works for you.
I think Rassie smiles every single time someone has a whinge. He just knows they're living he's living rent free in their heads, So it is, don't whine about it.
The whinging comes because they can't combat it.
Yeah.
You've just got to find a way,
Absolutely.
England do not possess the bench, the power that South Africa have.
Yeah.
So we've got to find a different way of trying to manage that. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of the game,
It's design a game that for the last 30 minutes that puts pressure on the backs, that stretches them a little bit more, that makes them a little bit more tired, because there's no one to replace them. Do something. But
I've got actually, I wonder what you guys think actually. I've got a little bit of a theory on this. I think so many teams try to play against Africa like lightning pace, move them around and all that. But actually it takes away your legs so much that by the time the bomb squad comes on, you're actually gassed. And the guys that you bring on aren't at the same strength. So I almost would flip it and be like, can we play the slowest pace game ever so that we don't absolutely knacker ourselves out, so that these guys can last, our frontline guys can last for as long as possible before we bring on the other guys. And I'm not saying you'd combat it. I'm just curious to know whether you would deal with it slightly better than being completely gassed. By the time they rolled out the 7 subs at the weekend against Scotland had done 150 odd tackles. They'd gone flat out tempo, running at 1 million miles an hour. By the time these guys come on, their frontline guys are absolutely gasping. And I just wonder whether you flip it.
Let's
I wonder whether you'd flip it.
Only release this after the England game.
What changes? What do you think Rassie will do this weekend?
There'll be significant changes. I think he's gonna make a change at 9. I think we'll see more of Grant Williams.
Really big fan of him.
Yeah,
big fan of him.
I think we'll see her back in. I think we'll see a much similar team to the one that finished the championship. That's what I think will happen.
Similar team that finished the championship. Null spray.
Yeah.
That was a 6-2 split.
Twice.
Interesting. England. There's a couple of Tom Curry's injured
Manny, I'm not sure whether he's going to be right or not. Manny Fewabose, so there could be some changes there. Normally they release the team by now, and they haven't, which means they're a little bit unsure, or there's some patching up to do with some bodies. Yeah. But I imagine it's pretty similar to what's been put out. I can't expect there to be too many more changes, really, than kind of what we've seen. But it's a monumental ask this weekend. It's a huge challenge. For England, the pressure is off. There is pressure, of course there is, but the best team in the world is coming to town. Yeah. Double world champions. Given the form that England are in, it is a bit of a shot to nothing. My expectation on England, a proud Englishman, is I think we're up against that. I don't think we're going to do the business. But what I would like to see is the defence better than it was, improve. I'd like to see the balance of play a little bit better in terms of just not getting loose. We don't want to feed the Boks and their back three and how much danger they have. So, look, it's going to be a tough old day for England. But I'd just like to see improvement in certain aspects of our game. Yeah. Just a quick word on Wales, guys. Haven't won, 10 losses in a row, something like that? Is it that bad? Yeah. No, that's problematic. Australia this weekend? Quick word, what's going to happen there? I think Australia's going to smash them. Yeah. And it's sad because Wales, again, like we said about Australia being good for the game, it's important for Wales to be strong. Absolutely. And they've always been strong. So my worry is that it's not actually a group. This group issue. I remember a couple of years ago, we used to struggle in Wales. No easy games. There were no easy games. No easy games in Cardiff. But my worry is that it's not just so much about the squad getting it wrong. It's about what's behind them and the school system and the popularity of the game. I mean, Wales is always a rugby-loving country, So, and I just wonder how much of an impact or the interest in the game has had an effect on where Wales is now. And it's a pity, man. Gatton's been such a successful coach for them over so many years, but there's some questions now, and it's all result driven. You can be a magician. Is it fixable? Is there hope there? I would not know enough about their school structures and their club system to be able to know if it's fixable. But he's tried. He's picked a lot of youngsters, but 10 losses. Well, that is. But that's rugby country, though. I can tell you right now. It's not a football. Am I right? It's not a football nation. Rugby's huge. It's rugby country. As John said, with the youngsters, it's like are they blessed with experience in that squad to figure out what needs to be done? So the coaches have all got the experience, and that's one thing. And England's a little bit similar, where there is a lot of youngsters, and games like New Zealand and Australia, experience knows how to get that game won.
And you're right.
And experience knows how to get Wales within the squad. Boys, we can get through this. We can get that. If none of them have ever experienced, and the only thing they've ever experienced is lost, they don't know how to get through the other side. Yeah. And it's a very, very hard thing. They're up against it. It's sad. I agree with you guys.
You are right. And that's probably the mistake. If you had to pinpoint, if I looked at from the outside, because we don't know what's going on. You never know what's going on in someone's house. But you're 100% right. They probably went too long with a group of players without bringing in any fresh blood to learn and to get experience. And that is always the tricky part for a coach, is when you've got a group that does so well to bring in fresh blood. I mean, Russie's used 49 players this year.
Incredible.
Yeah, and there's two teams, but inside there's youngsters that are still carrying their blazer. They haven't got their blazer yet, but they're learning, and then they're playing, training with these guys, and that's probably something that could have been done a bit more 3, 4, 5 years ago with that amazing group of players, with Alan Jones and his crew.
And with that rotation, he's not going to bang all the youngsters in at once. Yeah. He's going to complement it with experience. So that if this lad's finding it quite hard in the midfield, let's say, well, he's out there with Am, like he's out there with Jesse Creel, Dealandi, like, you know what I mean? Like Moody, who's a brilliant player, obviously centre wing, but like, you're going to complement him with other guys that have been there, done it, and that is so pivotal in that. And Wales don't have that, and England are a bit similar. Like, it's a young group, and they don't necessarily. You got Ford and Coley coming off the bench and stuff, but actually the starting 15, you're looking at it, there's Maro, but there's certain positions where you're like, he's young and inexperienced, he's young and inexperienced, he's young and inexperienced. So if it does not go right, they don't quite know how to work through it.
Yeah. Russie's picked a 38-year-old player for both World Cups. He went with Schalk Brits. Yeah. And we had Dwayne.
John Fourie was 36, 37?
Probably around 37. Yeah. And that helps. You're right. It helps to have an older head who's got a different perspective on life, not just the game,
Yeah, and a lot of those guys I believe, will probably make 2027 the Boks squad as well. So, like... Yeah.
They should. They only play 45 minutes at a time.
So that is true. They're fresh. I mean, that's a scary thought, isn't it?
You're still playing, yeah?
Yes, I am just at the club, just at Leicester.
And Henry Tulangi apparently chased you guys around one night.
That was Coley. It was Alessandra, actually, But Henry, of course, oh my God. He's taller if he lays on his side. He's a box. Like, he is the biggest human in the world. Yeah. What a man. Frightening man. He runs a catering business actually now in Perpignan. That's what he does. So I don't think anyone's gone back and complained about the food.
But we heard rumours of a fight where was it Tulangi or one of the Tulangi boys?
Yeah, it was actually.
You got to tell us the story.
It was after one of the finals, the league final, and we were back and doing a social. We got the bus back from Twickenham, back up to Leicester. We're in the function after. We're all drinking. Everyone's having a good time. And then Saru Rambini, bless him, he was Fijian lover, but equally could be a bit of a fighter. And anyway, he was messing around, and Henry's like, right, that's enough, Saru. And then Saru carries on, and then he's just like, you sort of hear this commotion, and all you hear is Henry just goes, Saru, you pushed me too far, brother. Boom. And like that, and then it's just like everyone stopped, look, Saru's out there, sort of dreads everywhere, and Henry's sort of standing over there. It's like, right, let's call that one a night.
And no one was going to stop him?
No, God no.
So you played with how many of the Tulangis?
Pardon?
How many of them did you play with?
So when I first joined Leicester and I was coming through the ranks, I played with Henry for a little bit. Yeah. Then
Henry was the wing.
Henry was the 8.
Oh, the 8. Sorry,
Henry was the 8. He was the biggest human.
He took that ball up.
Biggest
from the
human,
first kickoff. Holy smoke! I think he smashed into Donny and Schalk and took them 5 meters back. He was ferocious for 20 minutes.
He was huge. I've never seen a bigger human than him. Honestly, he is frightening. Yeah. And then Alassana Tuolangi, the winger. Yeah. He was great.
He was also massive.
I thought he probably, in my opinion, of course, played with Manu as well. But Alassana for me was the best. Yeah. Tuolangi I had the privilege of playing with.
You have to answer to the rest of the brothers.
I will
after this.
But they're good guys. They're good guys.
Manu would have been the youngster coming.
Manu was the youngster, exactly right. So then Manu come through. Started as a winger, then obviously moved to centre and etc. Sort of been cursed with bad injuries, bless him. But an on form Manu and
unbelievable.
Geez, he had some talk in those legs.
Yeah. What's your Afrikaans like? You understand what ja of nee means? Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Yeah on yeah?
Off near.
Off near.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions. It's yes or no. Yeah, off near.
Me or
No, I'll ask both of you guys. You can shout out.
Okay,
I'll also
okay,
answer,
okay.
okay? Could South Africa's second 15 beat England's strongest team?
Where's the game at?
Yeah, off near.
Because if it's in Joburg,
Okay, it's
the
in
boys will be
Joburg.
knackered after 20 minutes.
Okay, it's in Joburg altitude, 1 o'clock kickoff.
Could England win?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Have you ever appeared naked on the news?
yeah,
Have you actually?
yeah. You know, and you've asked this question on purpose, haven't you?
I thought it was more directed at him. What?
Have you? Yeah, they mean not me. Me neither. No,
I was gonna say yeah.
come Staldrat.
Oh, okay. Now
we got put into that pit naked and afraid, and there was this picture of all of us looking literally like we were in a prison camp, and with all our glory. Thank God I was married at the time, and that picture went on to carte blanche on Sunday night.
Oh, jeez, I
I
forgot
know.
about that.
I know. Well, there wasn't a lot to
Did
see.
they have a small star or a big star? was it a small star or a big star?
It was a really cold night. It was more like the dot.
The coldest in history,
Just like
apparently.
the dot on top of an eye.
Okay, cool. Okay, next question. Is Steve Borthwick the last person you'd want to be stuck next to on the bus?
Yeah.
Did Matt Stevens deserve to get 14 stitches from Bucky's Berta's fist?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know sauce, so yeah.
Okay. Are Ireland the biggest chokers in rugby?
Yeah, I guess that's factual.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Six Nations they've won. Grand Slams they've won.
Yeah, they're not. I lost. We didn't even make it out of our pool in 2015
Yeah.
in the Home World Cup. So for me to sit here and say that they're the biggest chokers is absolutely wrong. So no, they are not.
Remember, the best way to not be a choker is to actually not get to playoffs.
So no, they're not, in my opinion.
Did Mark Quater score the try in the 2000 World Cup
Yeah.
final? Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Still not enough points to get to.
Exactly. If you add it up, we still won by a point. Okay. Will we ever see Wales win another rugby match?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Can the English lads not handle their brandy like us?
I've had a few brandies with some of the boys at Say's, and they handled themselves with aplomb.
Names?
That is, loose lips sink ships.
Yeah.
But I will say, Will Fraser and Jamie George, they took a liking to their
Yeah.
brandy, and they handled it pretty well.
Is Jean de Villiers a Leicester legend?
Yeah. Loosely. More for being off the pitch than on the pitch.
He would be a legend in his own city and Paul, I would say, of Leicester. But yeah, I'm gonna go with yeah.
Obviously you're still playing now, and you've got a very successful podcast for the love of rugby. How did that come about?
Yeah, sure. Myself and Dan Cole got together, the dream team, and we got an opportunity to talk about rugby, our experiences, preview games, reviews, but everything the game give us. So you guys do it. Like, you just talk about old stories and everything like that. We felt like it was a space to be positive about the game and everything like that, and which we wanted to do. So you can get it on all audio forms, Spotify of course, and on YouTube as well. So it's growing really quickly, it's growing really nicely, and we're loving doing it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Like and subscribe, right?
Like and subscribe.
for the love of rugby.
For the love of rugby.
We're gonna obviously be doing a preview with you now on your channel. So tune into Youngsy's channel for the love of rugby for the second half of obviously this show here. John Smit, thank you very much, John.
Thank you, Shimmie.
That jacket of yours, can you just explain it to our viewers?
Would you like to know where to get one?
No.
Normally you say something stupid like, do they make that for guys as well?
I'm not gonna say.
So that's more.
I know
one of
your
the more
dress
original
sense.
shows.
You've obviously worked on your dress sense. You're very English.
I take this kind of thing quite seriously. Yeah, this is a big job.
Is it?
Yeah.
Predictions for the weekend. So let's just do predictions quickly
All right.
before we.
I reckon South Africa by 12.
My predictions have been horrendous.
Okay.
But I tell you what, I think this one will be right. South Africa will win.
Yeah.
I don't see England being able to deal with them. I agree with John. I think it will be 12 or more, to be honest with you.
Youngsy, thank you very much, man. All the best. You're
Pleasure.
still an active player. Leicester going well with Michael Cheika, is a good man, so hopefully you're enjoying that, and all the best. Thank you very much for joining us on the Boks Office. We're going to be on For the Love of Rugby with Youngsy just after this, so tune into his channel and watch her. The Boks Office from London is now closed.